Now, there's been numerous pain studies that also have caught my attention. Dental studies where people were given a placebo and were told that they were given a very strong narcotic for pain. And almost 50% of the people that were given the placebo had absolutely no pain during the procedure. Now, what they did was they found a substance that would block morphine receptors. And what they found is when they injected this substance, all of the person's pain came back, which means then that person was making their own pharmacy of morphine, their own pharmacy of anti-pain chemicals by thought alone. There's a Parkinson's study that I found very fascinating. Parkinson's disease is a deficiency in dopamine in the brain. And when there's not enough dopamine in the brain, the upper motor neurons can't communicate well with each other, and it causes involuntary tremors or spastic paralysis in the body. So in the placebo study, they told the subjects that the placebo was a very strong drug that would heal Parkinson's disease and their symptoms. When they got the substance administered to them, more than 50% of the people with Parkinson's disease, all of their symptoms went away. And one researcher said, well, if they no longer have any tremors, is it possible then that their body's making their own pharmacy of dopamine? So now, they did this little study where they injected a radioactive dye into their bloodstream that competes for the receptor sites for dopamine. Now think about receptor sites in your brain like parking spaces. So if the person that was given the placebo was making their own dopamine, dopamine would get into the parking spaces first, and when they injected this radioactive dye, there would be no parking spaces for the dye. So when they imaged the brain, they wouldn't see any radioactive elements in any of the areas where dopamine is absorbed. And if they didn't make their own dopamine and they injected the radioactive dye, then dopamine would not be in the parking spaces and the radioactive dye would get into the parking spaces, and we would know then that they were not making their own dopamine. What they found was that these people were making 200 times the amount of dopamine by thought alone. Now there's a caveat to this story, because when those people returned back into their lives and they sat in the same chair, they played chess with their friends, they saw the same people, they went to the same places, they did the same things, all of their conditions returned. In other words, when they returned back to their life, it was their external environment that was controlling the way they were feeling and the way they were thinking. In a sense, they went back to the old self. Now, if the environment is that strong that it influences a person's feelings and thoughts, their state of being, to return back to the old self, would it be a good idea every single day to do a meditation, to change your state of being to be greater than your environment? And if in the depression studies it took 8 weeks for many people to change their state of being by thought alone, that ultimately healed their depression, do you think it would be a good idea for you every single day to change your state of being for 8 weeks before you start seeing changes? And it's important to understand this because some people do it once or do it twice, and they expect the change to take place in just 1 or 2 attempts. Why does that not work? Because either the person's getting up after their meditation feeling the same way they did as they started, and if you get up from your meditation feeling the same way, then in a sense nothing happened neurologically, nothing happened neurochemically, nothing happened hormonally, nothing happened genetically, nothing happened energetically. You're still the same person. The second thing is that some people move into a new state of being, they feel great, and then they open their eyes and they get back into their life and they return back to their old self again. That's like eating a great breakfast, organic meal, and then spending the rest of your day eating junk food. So the importance behind placebo is that it may take a few attempts, it may take some time, every single day changing your state of being to be greater than your environment. It may take you a little time to change your biology. So how can you then move into a new state of being and change your body by thought alone? Well, think about this. How is it that the preacher in the deep south of the United States can move into a state of religious ecstasy and drink strychnine or poison and have no biological effects. Or the snake charmer, moving into an altered state of mind, gets bit by a poisonous snake and never has any blood coagulation. Or the tribes of the South Pacific move into a state of trance and walk across a bed of hot coals and never burn their feet. In each one... of these cases, every individual made a decision with such firm intention that the amplitude of that energy caused their body to respond to a new mind, that the choice that they made in that moment changed their biology in that second. And in that instant, they were immune to the conditions in their environment. And in a sense, then, it was energy that began to affect their biology and changed their state of being. Now, in order for you to change some health condition or condition in your life, you're going to have to make a decision with such firm intention that the energy from that decision is greater than the hardwired programs in your brain and the emotional conditioning in your body. And your body literally has to respond to a new mind. That the choice that you make in that moment becomes a memory or an experience that you never forget. And the stronger the emotion that you feel, the more you will pay attention to the decision. And in a sense, then, you are moving your body out of the past into the future. Well, how do most people make a decision to change? They're sitting on the couch, they have their computer over here, they have their smartphone over here, they have the big screen TV over here, and they say, let me see, I think I'll change tomorrow. Now, the body's realizing it's not getting any new information, so in a sense, it knows you're not serious. It knows that you haven't changed your state of being, and in a sense, nothing's going to change. But think about a time in your life where you've painted yourself into a corner, and you had no other choice but to change. And you said, this is it. I don't care how I feel, body. I don't care what's going on in my life or what people think, environment. And I don't care how long it's going to take, time. I'm going to do this. And when you make that kind of decision, and the hair on the back of your neck stands up, It's a new signal that's making it to the body. And in a sense, the body's literally getting new information, and now the body is responding to a new mind. It's that kind of energetic signal that the body gets that begins to select and instruct new genes. And remember, genes make proteins, and proteins are responsible for the structure and the function of your body. And the expression of proteins then is the expression of life. So then in order for you to literally move your body out of the past into the present, you're going to have to change your energy. And I can tell you from doing this for so many years, I now know that nobody changes until they change their energy. And when they change their energy, they change their life. So then, how then do we get thought to begin to influence our body? Really simple. You will only accept, believe, and surrender to the thoughts equal to your emotional state. And you will not accept, believe, and surrender to any thoughts that are not equal to your emotional state. Here's an example. A person gets a diagnosis. Diagnosis is cancer. The diagnosis is rheumatoid arthritis. The diagnosis is multiple sclerosis. The moment that person gets the diagnosis, the moment they get the news and how the doctor delivers it, you can agree with me, they have some type of internal change. They're feeling an emotion like fear. They're feeling an emotion like pain. They're feeling an emotion like suffering. And they feel that change in their internal state. They remember that moment the doctor told them. The brain takes the snapshot, and that becomes a long-term memory. And now the person can say all they want. I'm going to beat this condition. But if they're still living by that emotion, and they're saying, I'm getting stronger every day, I'm getting stronger every day, and the body's feeling fear, the body's feeling sadness or pain, the body's feeling discouraged, that thought will never make it to the body, never pass the brainstem. And they can say that affirmation over and over again. So then it makes sense then that if you begin to change your emotional state, and instead of surrendering to fear, start surrendering to love or gratitude, and think about the emotional signature of gratitude. Something is happening to you, or you are receiving something. So the signature emotionally is the perfect state of receiving. So if a person is feeling fear, they cannot accept, believe, and surrender to any thought that's not consistent with the feeling of fear. It never makes it to their body. Change their state from fear to gratitude and have that person open their heart and, in spite of the news, begin to change their internal state. If they're in a state of gratitude and they're in a state of receiving, they will accept, believe, and surrender to the thoughts equal to that emotional state. And they'll begin to program their autonomic nervous system into a whole new destiny.